Shijun Wang. In today's video, I am going to talk about the famous Chopin Winter Wind Etude, Opus 25, number 11. This is one of the most popular, most performed, most used in auditions and competitions etude Chopin ever written. And it's probably one of the hardest. When I learned this, I don't think there were any specific spot that is extremely difficult, like some of the spots in Opus 10 number 2 or Opus 10 number 1. However, this is probably the longest etude among all the fast etudes, right? We know there are three slow ones. But this is a fast one, and it lasts for 4 minutes almost, because the average length of the fast etudes is probably between 2 to 3 minutes, and this is extra long. So really it's a test for the speed, for the accuracy, but most importantly for the stamina of our hand. To begin with, this introduction was later on added. Chopin originally started the piece with this extremely exciting risoluto giant opening, but then he felt something missing, and he spent quite some time to add this simple introduction that uses the exactly same theme as the left hand, but then he created this in lento, kind of like a longing, expecting something coming, going to F, and dropping to C. Simple melody, but a lot of meaning inside, with the chorus accompanying. Now it almost sounded like a chorale. Now comes the question mark. Chopin was very satisfied with this, and so is everyone else. I think this is really a wonderful, wonderful way of opening this big etude. Let's talk about left hand first, and then leave most of the time on how to play the right hand with a big stamina that can last until the very last note. The left hand, from my experience of teaching this many times, a lot of students, they learn how to play chords in the very correct way, which is playing and then relaxing their hands. So a lot of students will break the notes in between the quarter notes. Of course, now we have pedal, so they just leave the pedal down, and then of course this, I mean, you can play like this with very relaxed hand, but however, mentally and musically, this will break the long line, right? So we have to learn how to relax our hands and arm, how to relax the facility we use, while keeping the musical long line going. Like I said in many of the previous episodes, we have the musical phrasing as well as the technical phrasing. And of course, ideally, they synchronize together, lining up perfectly, but that's not always the case. So in this case, we have to learn how to relax our arms while holding the long line. So do not leave the keys. I think it also helps us to voice it better if we do not always switch the center of our left hand to the right side. Like that. Okay? And another thing in the left hand we need to watch out is the phrasing. Because at the very beginning, it's exactly like how the introduction was phrased. 2-bar measure, 2-bar phrasing. But then the second time when the left hand plays in a lower octave, it's broken into 2 parts. So that last 2 notes is really separated from the previous phrase. Okay? And another thing is to watch out for the direction of the left hand melody. This is going down from D to C, from A to G sharp, and then left hand, now the lower part, going down, going down. Suddenly it goes up. So that's really a special moment. So we have to show that when we play this. Something more hopeful, something more almost triumphant. Okay. Here in measure 17, it's a difficult part. I think the reason why this is so hard is because there are 2 options, that 2 voices we can emphasize. One is the top voice, and both of these voices are in chromatic motion. From E to E flat, or we can emphasize the lower voice, B, C, C sharp. And then it continues. Yeah. Very often I see students frustrated in this part because they want to emphasize both. But within this fast speed, and then this awkward and big, wide chords, I think it's not necessary. So you either to emphasize top, or, which is much harder, to emphasize the lower voice. One way or the other. We cannot get both. Okay. Now let's talk about the right hand. Right hand has 24 notes per measure, and from the right beginning of this at measure 5, we don't have a break until the end of measure 12. So while you do the calculations, hundreds of notes without a break, and this is moving in really fast speed. And how do we have the stamina to even finish the first page? Not to mention there are 8 pages in this. We have to understand the principal concept, which is we have to breathe. We have to relax our hands even when we're moving them, right? I always have this metaphor of swimming when I teach this type of technical aspects in my private lessons. It's like you're swimming. Of course, you have to lift your head and need some oxygen, right? Need to breathe. But during that breathing procedure, you're still moving forward, right? There is still this momentum of moving forward, right? Of course, if it's extremely small pool and then short distance, you can hold your breath, right? You can probably even swim faster than those who does not, who constantly take a breath. But you cannot hold your breath for so long, right? What if you swim for a mile? Then you have to learn how to breathe, unless you you really tense up and you really hold your breath for like 5 minutes or more. And here, the right hand difficulty is to how to switch from the 6-note group to the 4-note group. Okay, so this the very beginning we have 6-note group. So every 6th note we have to use our wrist, our forearm to basically draw a circle. Drawing a circle really means you've taken the breath, you play down and then up, you've released the tension. So you may ask, what happens towards the very end when I'm lifting or I'm relaxing? That's when we apply the natural weight of our arm instead of forcing or initiating a new force. See, the C is still pretty deep because I'm using the weight of my arm upon that note. However, my arm is already taking a new breath. Okay, we can say this is 6-note groups, but when we first started or first begin practicing this, we can even eliminate the lower notes and make it a 3-note group. Practice like that. And then after a week, and of course, it takes a long time to get used to this breathing circle, but once you get it, then you don't really feel the fatigue when you reach, let's say, the last few pages. Also, at the very end, when you've already learned how to do this, the purpose of practicing this is to make sure the movements, or as I said, the circle is getting smaller and smaller until, like, if you don't tell them your secret, they cannot tell that you're raising, right? So not like, but I've taken 4 breaks, but then nobody can notice from just purely watching, unless you watch this video. Okay. Measure 9, this pattern changed. Now we have to have 3-note or 4-note groups. So here, every 4 notes, or even we can eliminate the lower one, make it every 2 notes. We have to use that. So really, we have like a switching gear. Yeah, we have to go from 6 or 3 to 4 or 2 in a split second. Okay. Of course, the most obvious spot for this 4-note group is from measure 37. So there we have to really have to teach our arms how the grouping works and how do we breathe. And then once we go back to, we have to go back to the 6-note groups. Okay. Speaking of this part, measure 45, we see musically this is a very intense etude. Not like this light-hearted Opus 10 number 2. This the same key A minor, and they even the key, even you can share the same key, the same chord progression from the beginning. Or almost like that. But then it's really quite opposite feeling or atmosphere because it's in minor. But then even when the dominant comes, it's the minor dominant, not the major one. Still minor. But here, suddenly it takes a turn into a much warmer A flat major. So almost like embracing this new key. And of course, 4 measures later, it goes back to the minor again with marcato. So really Chopin tries his best to make sure that musically it's as contrasting, as variety, has more variety, as many as variety as possible. Okay. Um, Here, I think that's all I want to share with you guys. Um, the main thing is the switching of right hand pattern and how to. This is almost like circular bracing in when playing. And also, this one thing I want to share with you guys is when we see many notes, when we see hundreds of notes, even 10 notes, we have to break them into smaller pieces. This is almost like a mind game. When I was doing my undergraduate, I never thought about these. I just try to use my energy, right? Because use can conquer anything. If I get tired, I practice my stamina on how to play this when I'm tired. And even when I was at Juilliard, I always know which practice room has the heaviest piano, the heaviest action. So I thought, oh, if I can play in that heavy piano, then I can play in any other. But of course, it's not the only way of resolving that problem. If you use more arm, then the slight difference between the pianos, really you can ignore that. The arm is way more powerful than using fingers alone. But also one thing I learned actually from a clarinet teacher, Mr. Charles Neidig, a legendary figure in the clarinet world. I was accompanying my roommate in a contemporary piece, I think something French, very difficult. And there was this 13 note slur or 13 note group that my roommate had problem with. And of course, it's in terms of the modulation of the melody, it's really ups and downs and not a lot of pattern in it. And Charles Neidig, he drew 3 lines, and instantly my roommate could play this with great fluency. Because he said, you don't think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 within one breath. You think 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then it's more glib, it's more smooth. And then you can handle it. Your mind can handle something within 3 or 4 notes. Here the same. We're going to try to put a 12, 24 note group into 3 note groups or even 2 note groups here. And that's how we can almost make something much easier than it looks. Okay? And please, if you have question on a specific measure or a specific technique, please leave your comments and we shall discuss it. I can also learn a lot from teaching because sometimes, because everyone's technique is different, everyone's hand is somehow built differently, then some things that is easy for me might be difficult for others or vice versa. So please leave comments and let's build this platform of discussing on how to resolve the Chopin Etude technical problems. Thank you for watching. Next week I will see you again here with the last etude of the whole set, the famous Ocean Etude.